Aristotle would agree that friendship requires reciprocal affection. But he thinks that there are several kinds of friendship. Again, whenever we talk about Aristotle, he would say...
there have to be categories.
Yeah, let's just bring kinds in. Let us not ask the Platon...
But I mean, he is right.
He is right, yeah. Let us not ask the Platonic question, what is, let's say, this thing, and expect one answer. Let us look at kinds. And he says there are three kinds of friendship. One is the friendship of utility, the other is the friendship of pleasure, and the other is the friendship that is the true friendship. It is based on character and virtue. And he says that, for instance, there are all sorts of curious overlaps and questions that arise from it. And he says that, for instance, friendship based on utility is the reciprocal affection felt by people who have a common interest. Yeah. But when that interest gets lost or something, or it is not anymore, they cease to be friends.
Completely true.
You could say that many business deals involve this.
And one example of that, actually, is people you might meet online to play video games with. Actually, you go to a forum, and like, does anyone want to play this video game with me? And you're like, yeah. And so you guys, you have a good time playing this video game. But when whoever loses interest in that video game, you just kind of, split off and go your own ways. There's not anything malevolent, and there's no hard feelings or anything. It's just that's the way it works, right? And that's a good example, I think, of a friendship of utility in the modern era. And
frequently, I think there is a sort of sad misunderstanding that sometimes happens because some people, they don't have a life outside this. I mean, a rich and robust social life outside this. And they do think that these kinds of friendships, there are something more. Yeah. But the point is, how can you really know someone if you just meet them in a very, very, very artificial context?
And if you're doing it for a purpose as well.
Yes.
You might meet someone, okay, we're here to trade goods or something. And so you spend 5 hours trading goods. And so, you'll get to know their characterizations and their mannerisms, and you might, share some jokes or something, but that's it. It's very surface level.
And there's another element here. There's a kind of friendship that has to do with, that is based on pleasure. And he says that this is the most common one. Many people, they come together so that they're not alone, so that they, gonna go out and have a good time. And he says that most young people base friendships on these grounds.
Yes, going out drinking together.
Yes.
I mean, or playing video games, in fact. That's another example.
And again, we have the same problem that may arise when people, they believe that, just because we go out getting wasted, that means something more.
Yeah.
And then we have friendship that is true friendship, according to Aristotle. That is friendship that is based on character.
Yes, a love of the virtues of another person's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says that this is what true friendship consists in. And it is sort of other regarding, and you wish for the other person to be well in a way that doesn't necessarily affect you.
Yes.
You want the other person to be good, to have you want the best for that person.
Yeah, under all circumstances.
Yes, you want the best for that person. And this takes time again. Because as we said, there is an initial stage of goodwill.
It's the deepest and most intense kind of friendship.
Yes, and it has to be tried.
Yeah.
Because it's like many people who say, for instance, I'm the best captain. And they cannot captain a ship in a storm.
Yeah.
You never really know if they're as good as they say unless the storm hits you.
Yeah.
And I think the same has to do with friendship. That there is a sort of goodwill that we are supposed to show to other people when we meet them. It's a sort of civility or politeness, that we open ourselves to the possibility that we may become friends. But in order for us to, let's say, not be, let's say, stupid and see the other people, we need to constantly engage in this trial and error mindset and mentality, because that is where we really test the character of the other person.
Absolutely. The true test of a friendship is when they will help you and gain nothing in return for it. For example, if you lost your house or something, and this person says, well, come and sleep in my spare room, until you get your back on your feet. You know, they don't really gain anything from that physically, materially, but they loved you for who you were, and they will do what a good friend would do in that situation and help you because you need it. That's the only reason.
And I that's an interesting example, because I have seen that's an actual example.
I know, yeah.
Two people who were supposed to be friends, and one of them got evicted.
Right.
And he asked the other person to stay at his house, and the other person said no, because I would have to notify the letting agency for 2 or 3 days. He asked him to stay at his house for the weekend.
Right.
And he said, no, I'll have to notify the letting agency, and I'll have to pay a small fee for you. And I don't. And the other person got evicted. But you know,
that's awful.
It's absolutely awful. Yeah. But what is more awful is that the other person, he excused it, and he carried on idolizing the other person. And that's another thing, that there's a question as to why people come together. And I don't know if Aristotle touches upon this, but some people are so insecure that they want the other person's approval. And they are gonna want the other person's approval no matter what. He wouldn't call them friends. No. He would say that the basis of that relation is, let's say, the desire to be, let's say, recognized.
Yeah, because I mean,
and the desire to dominate by the other person, because to accept something like that is really weird. Yeah, to want something like that.
He'd view it more as sort of master-slave relationship.
Yeah,
like the basis for our friendship for Aristotle is mutual respect. You know, it's like they have to. But I mean, that's. I'm just thinking now, the amount of times where like either friends have stayed on my couch or I've stayed on theirs or something like this. And I was thinking, I just took it for granted.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, of course you can stay on my couch, or of course they'll say, yeah, I can stay on their couch. Why wouldn't they? You know, they're my friend, you know. I just took it for granted completely. And looking back, I don't realize how lucky I was. But also how few people I think I know now, like young people, who feel that they have that kind of same strength of friendship with other people. Like I bet there are people who are like, well, I haven't really got anyone whose couch I can stay on. So we used to have loads of friends who'd be able to do that for us.
It's an issue of being well disposed toward each other.
Yeah. Well, it's genuinely concerning.
But also wanting to place limits, because frequently what Aristotle says that is very interesting is that the grounds of friendship are not always understood by both people in the same way.
That's true.
And he says that many quarrels occur when there's a misunderstanding about this. Yeah. So someone says, no, this was supposed to be strictly a business deal. It's not about, you know, I don't admire your character. I just want to make money from you or something. Yeah. Or, you know, another case that when, for instance, people go out for pleasure and you have some people who really like the other person, and they open up their secrets, for instance, and then they get betrayed because they don't understand that the other person doesn't actually value their character.
Yeah, they're not nearly as invested.
Yeah. And I think that this is really weird because, and really disconcerting in a way, because there are many people out there who are really good at posing and really good at conning, let's say, within quotation mark, and literally.
I mean, this is what a confidence trickster is.
Yes.
They make you feel that they're your friend and you can trust them, and they're conning you.
So the main question here that Aristotle asks, especially in Book 9, is when do you break a friendship? That's a big question that he deals with. That I think it's a really important question to ask. So let's think of what happens and we end friendships. I mean, personally, I have ended friendships, and it has to do with when I realized that the other person was very vicious or very weak. And in what sense? That I realize that this may sound a bit callous, but when I say this, I want to contextualize. I'm a big believer in the view that you can't help people who don't want to be helped. And there are some people who love to whine, and they love to complain about how the world maltreats them, but they're not actually interested in making their life better. They're more content with their misery. So the question is, if I'm giving you a hand and trying to raise you from the mud that you tell me you're stuck in, don't try to drag me down.
Yes, yeah.
So when I've ended a friendship or let's say an acquaintance in such a case, there was a prolonged period for years where I understood that no, this person doesn't want to improve. This person actually wants society to burn, and he wants to drag me down with him.
What I find interesting is that very rarely does someone actually have to formally dissolve a friendship, right? Normally, you just leave the relationship untended and it frays on its own. So it becomes. But often, conversely, a friendship that is based in genuine feelings of love and respect can go untended for years and just spring back to life the moment. Because I mean, I've got friends who I've been friends with for like 20 years and 30 years, and when I see them, it's the same as if we hadn't spent 5 years not talking to each other, right?
I've had the feeling.
And so it's interesting how like the genuine, the deepest form of friendship is genuinely the most strong and powerful and survives all sorts of things. So very complex and very difficult thing. But what worries me though is I think that a lot of like Zoomers particularly don't really have much knowledge of this actually, which I never really thought about in depth until now. But like, it's worrying and sad actually. Yeah. I'm going to think about this more.
So the final question that Aristotle, that we can touch upon here, because he has many questions here.
Well, just a quick thing to that. So Aristotle would basically say that when the conditions of the friendship have changed, then the friendship dissolves.
Yes. And he says that when you find out that the other person is incurably vicious, you can break the friendship immediately.
Yeah.
If if you think that the other person is weak, the other person is entitled to your help. But if, at some point, eventually, if you see that the other person...
Yeah, you can't keep throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, that you have to end the friendship there.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.